Got it. So we're going to record this for our group, and that'll be available to you also, Dale.
Okay.
I'm going to turn this over to you, and if do you want to hear people's comments? Do you want them to hold their?
I think it's better to hold it because it gets to be distracting with those disembodied voices. So
Right.
yeah,
Do you
so
mind,
it's better.
me asking you a few questions once in a while?
Yeah, that's fine. But if I get
Okay.
too many, then it gets to be
Understood.
weird.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take it away, Dale.
Okay, so what I'm doing, thought I had it here. Trying to get adjusted here. Now out of adjustment all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on here. Hang on. All of a sudden it went to.
And did you do a value study for this too, Dale?
No, I didn't. I'm just trying to get it where I can see all of a sudden it disappeared on me here. There we go.
Now we see just you and not the.
Now that we got one thing fixed, another thing happened here. There we go. That's
Yep. I think that's.
I hope this isn't giving anybody dizziness.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Artists trying to do technology.
Yeah, this is the best homemade technology here.
You just said that. That's funny. Oh, I wonder if my audio is on.
I could just tell bad jokes instead. I can't get that right. I'm just having trouble with that wire. Can you come over here and hold this wire for me? One of you?
What?
There we go. Okay, let's go with it. All right, so what I've just decided to do today is a big surf painting of the cliffs and the beach. Is there someone who's got their sound on?
Could everybody please mute themselves?
Okay, so what I normally do in the demonstration, because of the time constraints, is I'll do an underpainting, a sketch and an underpainting to start with, so that we have this dried, because I always do an underneath painting, a wet into wet start for my underpainting, so that I can layer on top of this. So I need a nice dry surface. In order to do that, I had to do a wet into wet wash, get my yellow ochre down. I used some cobalt blue, some French ultramarine in the sky, a little bit of neutral tint in the sky, things like that, to build this idea of a misty falling sky, wet sky coming down. And then on the right side here, I have my composition. And I think I can redraw it really quickly here. I'm going to start with right up here in the corner and bring my cliff down like this, all the way down about just about 3/4 of the way down the composition from the very corner here, which your teacher might tell you, oh, that's a no-no, you can't do that. But you can in certain circumstances where you want the object to be really close to you. You go right to the corner of the composition right here, and then carry whatever you need to carry down below. So if you look at a Thibault painting or even a Gregory Kondos painting, you see how they use that diagonal very effectively by going into the corners and pulling the subject really close. So that was my intent with that type of situation. And then I have a secondary cliff coming down here like this, all the way down, and it stops a little farther away than this one here because it's in the distance, so it's going to be up a little bit from this one here. So this one comes down. I know this is hard to see. And then I have a headland coming out here like this and dropping down. And then I have my major kind of focal point is this big rock shape coming down through here like so, and connecting to the edges of the picture plane. So I guess it kind of shows up on there. I didn't want to make it too dark because it would affect the painting somewhat. So now that I've got my drawing down, I've got my sky, I've got my yellow ochre underpainting, which warms up the scene, gives me a little kind of a underglow to the scene. That's why I use yellow ochre, just to give even the sky a little bit of underglow. There's some right in here as well. And they're very thin washes, but they serve my purpose. Yellow ochre serves that purpose well to create the underlying warmth. And then you can bring your other colors on top of that. So I'm going to start with my big 3-inch brush here. It says Robert Simmons Skyflow, and I use this brush since I was born. No, feels like it though. And it covers a lot of territory, especially on this full sheet vertical arches paper that I'm using here. And so I'm mixing right now, I'm mixing up a puddle of yellow ochre big enough to handle this brush. So that's why I like the Eldejon palette, is because it has all these mixing wells like this that I can use, so I can keep these puddles going quite a ways. And what also I'm doing is loading my brush with a lot of water and the color so that it'll carry me through on this big wash. So there we go with the yellow ochre, a little heavier like this. So I'm thinking of the dry, rocky hillsides, cliff sides coming from up above, down below to the beach area. So I block in these big major shapes before I get too far into the program here. I just want to make sure that I can build on top of the shape. So I start with like the biggest shape, which was my paper, and I did the underpainting. And now I'm working with my next largest shapes in order to get what I'm after here. So I've added some cobalt blue to the yellow ochre to give me a dusty green feel to this. So there, it looks very gray on my monitor, but it's more of a yellowish green gray is what I was after. Let's see, let's add a little bit of burnt orange to this. I use Quin burnt orange instead of burnt sienna. So Quin burnt orange is my go-to for that. I'm going to bring some of that color right in here to the forefront of this cliff shape there. Another color I use quite a bit, it's really a non-color, it's neutral tint, which is a kind of a gray. And I use that sometimes to neutralize the real brightness of something. So I'm using it here a little bit to tone down the brightness of the warm colors I was using there. I'm normally I work on full sheet watercolors, but I do from time to time I'll do a half sheet, but not too often. I like to do the large sheets there. So so I've got that pretty well established now, that cliffside there, and I'm going to wait before I do the next cliff because I want this edge to be pretty dry so it doesn't bleed in to the other one. So I'll move on to some other area of the painting and work with that. So I might switch to maybe my 2-inch brush here, and I'll start with cobalt blue and a little bit of neutral tint mixed together.
Dale, is
Yeah.
the neutral tint translucent or transparent? I mean,
Yeah, it's very transparent.
so it's different than a black.
Yeah, it's not like a black. No, it's great for toning down or making grays and that kind of thing. So that's one of the reasons I switched to it. So
Thank you.
I used to just mix the yellow. What did I used to use? Oh, I used to mix burnt orange or burnt sienna with a French ultramarine to get a gray. And in my old age, I've gotten lazy, and now I just order it from a tube. No, it just makes a nice. It's just a nice feel to it. So what I want to do is make a little wisp of fog across that headland I just put in there. So I'll just, I wet this Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and wrung it out a little bit. And then I just come in here and lift a little like this to pull some of the wet color back off to create a sense of a mist hanging along that hillside there. I think you can see that okay. I'm not sure that came off like it's supposed to here. So the best way is to pull in from the sky into the object that you want to obscure with mist, because otherwise you're pulling the color into the sky. This way we're just pulling it into the object. One thing that I think I would like to do here is add a little bit more yellow ochre for a distant warm tone right here where the sky is maybe clearing a little bit. So I'm adding some yellow ochre to that. It's probably very faint to you on your camera, but or on your monitor, but we'll just go with that like this. So what I'm doing is jumping around to different areas and trying to build them up simultaneously, because I wait for an edge to dry like here and an edge to dry here and so forth. So we'll just let that settle in. Now I think what I'll do is I'll work to the foreground here. And for that, I'm going to go back to my trusty yellow ochre and my big brush. And I'll lay in the beach color here with a yellow ochre. Now, some people like raw sienna, and then there's other colors that work, but for me, this is a nice grade yellow, and it's not too obnoxious as far as brightness goes. So that's why I like to use the yellow ochre. So I'm kind of wet this whole general shape. Again, I'm working with these big general shapes rather than start with the big thing, you know, the detail, and work to the other thing, because that's what we want to do is see the big shapes, see what's underneath the subject before we go into the details. So it's like building a house. You don't want to put the doorknobs on before you even have a door. So you got to do the big things first. General shapes. Like you dig a hole with a backhoe first. Now I'm putting in some, introducing some a little bit of violet here mixed with the quinacridone red and cobalt blue. And I want to mix that into this yellowish beach color here to create variation in that surface there. And I think you can see it a little bit here and here along the way there. So now just test it. It's a pretty dry day, so some of these edges are drying pretty quickly here. This one's still wet because I used a lot of water in this area. Okay. So here I have this big rock that's cleaved off of the main thing some zillion years ago, but it makes a good focal point, so I use it. So I added neutral tint to that rock shape. Now I'm going to charge in some quin-burnt orange to that to give it a warm gray tone. So there is mainly the burnt orange in there, and I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt blue to that, I think. There we get kind of a warm gray blue look to this thing. So you saw that I made a brush stroke like this to the left, and that was kind of the compositionally to hook that rock shape right to the edge of my picture plane here. So I've got this here and this here. I really don't do a lot of value studies as much anymore, but I used to do one for almost every painting that I made. So I think it just becomes ingrained or part of me since I've been doing this so long. Jolene, I think it was Jolene said 50 years, I think.
I have one of those value studies.
Yeah, you probably do. 50 years of painting. Let's see. I started painting in 1964. Well, I don't know the math for that, but whatever it is, I think it's more now.
How long have you been teaching, Dale?
Like this, workshops and things since probably 1985.
So 1964 to the present is 58 years.
Wow, so it's almost 60 years then.
You can
Then if
round up.
Then if you count color crayons and drawing in my tablet, that would be 1958. So you could add those on there too. I've always done drawing or something, so. So there's kind of my focal area, and I really got that nice and dark and finished it off as well as I could while it was wet, because I wanted to do some wet into wet inside my shape. So I had started with the quin-burnt orange here, added the cobalt blue, and then I used some neutral tint with quin-burnt orange to create this darker side to that rock. And I might add shadow on there a little bit later too, as well. It's all wet. This is pretty wet. I think I can get by with doing that next cliff here. This one, I think I'll be able to do it with my 2-inch. I don't have to use the big 3-inch. I've been mostly working the last few days on aquabord, so I'm having to go back to good old fashioned paper here.
What is aquabord?
It's a surface that's it's on a hardboard. See if I have any around here somewhere. It's on a hardboard and then it's sprayed with clay. And it comes like this. You can either get it cradled or just a panel. And this is kaolin clay with a slight tooth to it, very thin surface. And you can paint on that. You can remove color very easily on it.
Does
So
it work
it's
like a
pretty-
hot press?
No, it's nothing like, you can't even compare it to paper really. It's a mineral, so it's just different.
But you're using watercolor.
Yeah, it's made for watercolor. That's why they call it aquabord. So. Yeah, it's a thing that's been around for quite a while, actually, so. The advantage to aquabord is you needn't frame it. You just spray it with an acrylic satin or high gloss, whatever you like, archival spray. Golden makes those. And it's really nice because then you just put a wire on it and hang it if you get the cradled surface,
And it doesn't dissolve the watercolor?
With
when
the
you spray it,
oh,
yeah.
once it's dry. No, it's made for that. Yeah, it's made to use
Awesome.
on.
If you,
Yeah.
maybe at the end of this, you could show us one that you've done.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I just was looking for one and I didn't see it, but I can show you. Yeah. Just remind me.
Will do.
I just hit 70 this month, so I need reminding.
Where's your walker?
It's just, I lost it. I can't find it.
No more hiking the hills for you, huh?
Oh, I still walk, but I don't backpack anymore. Nope, I still walk quite a bit.
I want to know if you've gotten a drone so you can take pictures instead of out of helicopters.
Yeah, I think that's my next step. I keep thinking I'm going to do that and I keep getting other projects in the way, but I'd like to do that. I know there's some other artists already doing that, so. Okay, this is quite a bit darker than it's showing on the screen, but that's okay. I'm at a decision point here whether or not I want to put some mist into this cliff too. I think I might, just for demonstration purposes here. I'm going to get a clean one. Hang on. Yeah, these are the best things ever for making adjustments. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser Originals. They're great for making fog and lifting areas and things like that.
They don't
Especially
have like a bleach in them?
no, it's just a scrubber.
Oh.
If you get the original, you don't want to get anything else because it may not. It may have bleach or something in it. So see how it makes a nice misty feel to it there?
Yeah. And you just use it like a
Yeah.
sponge?
Yeah, it's just a microfiber sponge. Yeah, get them at the store, at Safeway or wherever you shop.
Right.
again, I have to start from the sky and move into the cliff there like that. And there we have a little bit of it. Another trick to make it even lighter, what I use now for my white is titanium white watercolor by Daniel Smith. And I can even go in there and lighten it up a little bit with putting it right into that wet area and brighten it up that way. Something like that. So there are different ways to do things here.
Why the titanium white? Is there a difference?
But it's semi-opaque, so it's not totally opaque, and it washes down nicely, but it's still, titanium is like very strong color that will cover if you use enough of it. So I think that works the best for me. You know, there are other ones that other people use, but I found the titanium white works the best for me from Daniel Smith. Sometimes I'll use gesso, but then it's indelible and it's hard to get off. So mainly I use nowadays the Quinn titanium.
You taught me that gesso move that has saved so many of my paintings, I cannot tell you.
Yeah, I still use it, but not as much. So I think it's a good, there's some artists like Robbie Laird. She uses it quite extensively, more than I do. So that's mostly neutral tint there, that rock shade coming in. Then I'll charge in some Quinn burnt orange into it. So you can see I'm sticking with harmonious colors right now that work for me. A lot of warm colors, and then over here I'll work with cooler colors. So I stick to that kind of MO with this. So that's a rock ledge that's in front of this big shape here, is what I'm thinking in terms of there. I actually should have finished this before I started that, but I got excited. So I'm going to use cobalt blue and a little bit of phthalo blue green shade. And I'll use a tiny bit of Quinn gold. No, that's too bright. Trying to get a slightly blue-green wash here. I just need a little bit for my ocean here, right in here. So this is a distant horizon there. I'll put nudge some warm up against this headland here to show that there's a beach or something back in there. Like that. I'm just being touchy-feely with my painting, checking the temperature. Yeah, with my big brush here. So what I want to start doing now is patterning this this big cliff here. We just have this big yellow blob right now, so we want to get start to get some definition to this and make sense out of this cliff here. Mostly using some cobalt blue here that turns slightly green when it hits the underpainting, the yellow underpainting.
So you use the cobalt pretty pure without adding, because of the transparent.
Underpainting, yeah. I'm charging in some Quin burnt orange into that cobalt blue wash to reflect some maybe cliff or rocks or whatever color that you find on a cliff. Some light from this window. Shut it. So what I'm planning here are some foliage and stuff you find on the surf, on the edges and on the cliffs and things like that. So that's just kind of just look for some dirty green water here, and that's basically what I'm doing. I don't want a real bright green that far away. Sometimes what I'll do is charge in some cobalt blue to show the effect of the sky on some of these distant cliff shapes here, tree shapes coming down. So as I move down, I charge in a little cobalt blue into my green. Cobalt blue is one of those very useful colors. It's a great glazing color. It's semi-transparent, so it's not too obnoxious of a blue like phthalo blue. So it just settles everything in. You can glaze over and tone things down with it. So it makes a really, really great. It's like my go-to color. They always say, when in doubt, Dale takes the cobalt out. So it's really a good fixer-upper as well as good for skies and mixing other colors like violets and things. So I really have had cobalt blue on my list forever and ever. I think. I don't think there was a time when I didn't have cobalt blue on it. I just want to note that this color I'm using is much richer than what I can see on my monitor. So I don't know what anybody else is seeing, but.
I remember from past classes how you go from a big brush to that little brush, and it's almost like a, oh, whoops.
Spoke too soon.
Yeah, it's just the delicate way that you put the colors in and add it not in one big swoosh, but a very
Yeah, here and there. Yeah.
deliberate places.
Yeah. They're almost like little accents or details, things like that. Okay, so the whole idea here is that is coming down through here and deepening each value as I go. So this is my first value and this is my second. This is a little darker, but eventually when this dries, I'll come in with more pattern on top of that. But at this point, I can take my tiny little brush and play around with some lines in here. You know, I can go and add some texture and some decoration with my brush. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is get the idea of maybe the part of the cliff is cleaved off and become part of the rubble here. So it's kind of a vertical slope right here, and then it goes off at another angle, diagonal there. When I'm painting these in my studio, that's what I do, is I just place myself in the scene sort of, and well, what can I remember from being there? What did I learn that I can put into my paintings later? And I think I work better that way than painting on location, which I love to do, but I think my best paintings come from my imagination, or I should say remembered imagery. You know, that would be better for me to say it that way.
When you're on location, do you do a lot of sketching?
Yeah, I do a lot of sketching. Here's a sketchbook that I've done. See if I can go to the front of it here and do light sketches. Here's one I did of a snowy meadow in up above where I live in Carson Pass area. And here's looking down on a lake, red lake, cliffs on the left, and then the lake is in the center with dark shadows. So I spend a lot of my time doing that, and that comes back in my painting as well. So that's a good thing, is, you know, getting in the habit of doing that. Drawing is what I first learned to do, and so it's kind of my first love is drawing. And when they talk about art elements, they always mention line first, and then shape. You need line to make shape, and then values, darks and lights, and color and texture. So some artists like are more into color, so that becomes more primary. Other artists like to draw more and represent things with line. So then the art element becomes that. But drawing is really important. There's no Renaissance, I think it was Latin, the Renaissance artists used to use this term, nulla day sine linea, which means no day without a line. And that makes a lot of sense. So while this is semi-wet, I'm dropping in some ideas for shrubs and ground cover and stuff like that. So I'm decorating this surface up here. I'm dropping in some nickel azo yellow now here, which is a nice yellow. The yellows I use are either the yellow ochre, the gold, quin gold, or then this nickel azo yellow. Those are the only yellows I have. The only red I use is quin red. So quinacridone red, it's a true red, so it works quite well for what I need to do. So I've been playing around with that quite a bit, but I'm gonna let that rest, let it dry out a little bit and start working some of my other areas of painting. That's just mostly yellow ochre right there. And I'll just find some dirty blue water here and just add that to the mix there and carry that on out. Get a clean spot here for my blue. I'm going to start working on the water, the ocean water.
Do you have any classes or shows coming up, Dale?
Yeah, I just finished the Virginia City workshop, which was the live workshop. And then I have in the Santa Clara Valley Watercolor Society's having me at the beginning of October. So I'll be doing that one. And over here in McCollum Hill next October, I'll be doing a workshop, 2-day workshop called Upon Reflection, which will be about the creating reflections in your water and creating different kinds of water situations that you might find in painting. So those are coming up. And a lot of different Zoom ones here and there, just demos and things. So.
Are they on, can we find those on your website?
Well, I should get it up to date. I think I just have the Virginia City one and a Zoom one on there. I'm doing a Zoom series through the Sacramento Fine Arts Center. And the first one is going to be about aquabord. Speaking of that, and they're one 4-hour session each time, and then the next one is going to be, I think it's going to be weather, and then I'm going to do a snow one for November. So I've got a couple of them lined up here. Weather is going to be how to create certain weather effects with clouds and sky and things like that.
And that's through who?
Sacramento Fine Arts Center in Carmichael. I think it's Sacramento, just put in Sacramento Fine Arts Center and they'll come up with their website.
And anybody can sign up?
Yeah, I think there's a price for members and a different price for non-members, but anybody can sign up.
Is it live or recorded?
It's a Zoom.
Okay.
So here I've added some of the ocean water coming in, the surf line and that kind of thing, just casually in here. It's not a major part of my painting, so it's not too important to me as far as attracting attention. So it's just kind of general abstract shapes there. And here I'll just show this surf kind of bouncing up against that cliff there. Yeah, that's pretty dry there. So see where I had that fog, I kind of went up into that foggy area. So I want to reinstitute that now by just going back in and pulling color back off a little bit. The thing about fog, it's nice because you can hide a lot of stuff you don't want to show. So that's one of the nice things about putting in fog or clouds. Or shadows are another good one. If you want to obscure the detail, which is a good thing because we don't want to have too much detail or it kind of ruins the story. So by obscuring it, shadows, details in shadows works, clouds work, mist works, low light situations are good for that. So yeah, too much detail in the painting gets overly pedantic, and then we have, where does the viewer look? What's the painting about? What are we talking about here? So that's the whole idea with simplifying and showing less detail to things, is that. Oh, I know what I was going to do here. I was trying to remember. I'm 70, so I'm forgetting what I'm painting here. So it happens exactly on your birthday. When you're 70, then all of a sudden your memory goes.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah. No, I'm being facetious.
Really? That's so unusual for you.
I know. Well, I have to entertain myself somehow.
I feel the same way. If I can't make myself laugh, what's the point?
That's right. There are some people that were upset with having to stay in for COVID, and I thought, well, I'm with my best friend, me. So I enjoyed the time off, actually. Of course, there's a limit to having time off too, so. Got some puddles here I'm trying to manage, some bubbles and stuff, so. I wanted to keep that area like more surf, so lift a little bit of this out. There's a paper towel. I like these Viva paper towels. They're almost like cloth. They're really nice. I get my best art supplies in the grocery store. So another place I can use, this is for surf up against, I want to pull the surf out of this blue area and show it bumping up against that cliff there. So that's what I was doing here, lifting some of the blue out of there. Again, the other option, you can take your titanium white and you can make all kinds of nice waves. Thing is about titanium white, I'd only put out as much as I need at any one time because it tends to harden up really fast. So just put out a little bit at a time. You know, that gives us a little active motion in the painting, a wave splash. Now that this rock is dry, I'm going to come in here and make a little bit more of a shadow on the dark side of that rock. I just wanted to make a crisper edge to that rock and make it a little more definitive. Since it's going to be kind of a major feature of the painting. Notice how these lines here, these lines all lead to horizontal, which is stability in your work. These create motion and movement, visual motion. And then where do they come? They move down and they come to this point here. So that compositionally, this is my design, is this area here with the cliffs coming down to that. So there's all these linkages in here. Now I'm just dropping in some cobalt blue because I can't help myself. I like cobalt blue. So I'll put that in there. What are my time constraints on this painting?
You
When
got,
should I be-
it's 5 o'clock. You can go if you want for 15, 20 more minutes if you like.
Okay. I'll see, I'm getting close, so it's coming along pretty nicely here.
Well, I have to agree with you.
what I'm adding here is like a reflection from this rock shape up here down into this little pool. So that's what I'm trying to add here. So I'm thinking like a little tide pool here or something coming out. I think I'll change this shape. I don't like the. I always like to have a pool of neutral tint waiting for me. That way I can neutralize any color I need to gray it down. That line kind of defines the beach shape or the bank, sandbank from the reflection down below there. So. So now mixing up some phthalo blue green shade with some quin burnt orange to create this deep kind of foliage green, and I'm gonna add some of that to this top of this cliff, top of this rock here. Phthalo blue green shade really is a nice color for making greens. I mix quin burnt orange with phthalo blue green shade, or I'll mix any of the colors like quin gold with it. You make a brighter green. So there are lots of different colors you can mix, greens you can mix with phthalo green blue shade, because it's already tending towards the green a little bit, blue green. So you're mixing some of these colors, you get some really nice rich greens, but you have to be careful of the, not using too much of the phthalo blue, because it tends to get on everything. It takes over your painting, unfortunately, but it's the only one that makes a rich green, that rich of a dark green. You can use Viridian and some others, but it's harder to get a dark that way. What made this painting easy was almost half the painting is sky, so it worked out for me quite well that way. and all my line work. That. So at this stage, what I do is start dressing it up a little bit, put on some of what I've already been doing with the trees and deep little details and things like that. Because once I have the big picture done, the big shapes done, then the other stuff can follow. It's harder to put the detail in first and then hope for the best. That doesn't always work as well. Detail is the first thing you see, but it's the last thing you want to paint. That's the way it goes. Small shapes clutter up the painting before you're ready for them. So that's the point of working the big shapes first. Okay, well, it's pretty wet. I'm going to leave it right there. What I'm going to do is go get that aquabord painting and show you what I've done with that. So hang on.
Excellent. You got it.
Don't go anywhere.
Yes, sir. Does anybody have any questions for Dale that, since we're almost wrapping up here, that you'd like to ask him? I've gotten a lot of really nice quotes from Dale off of this. He's great at that.
I got quotes.
I got quotes from you, baby.
Oh boy.
When in doubt, Dale takes the cobalt out.
That's right. That's a biggie.
I hadn't heard that one. Who was the other artist that you said at the beginning that creates the illusion of closeness? Wayne Thibault and
Wayne Thibault and Gregory Condos.
Gregory who?
Condos.
Oh, Condos.
Yeah, he was from Sacramento. He's passed away. The light's not showing very well. See if I can, that's better. This is aquabord.
Nice. And have you sprayed that yet?
Yeah, it's sprayed now. So I can, drop water on it and it won't hurt it.
Wow.
Feeds right off. So thing about aquabord, it can be finicky, but it's also forgiving in that you can clean big areas off and just start completely from scratch without disturbing the surface. So that's the good thing about it. So I use a lot of these to lift and move color around. I lifted out the clouds to give it that windy effect. So I've done a lot of things. Even at this stage, if I hadn't have sprayed it, I could take it and clean the whole thing off, soak it in a bathtub for a while, and wash the whole thing off. And
kind of like
just
that sanded pastel paper that lady from Santa Cruz
yeah,
made.
similar to that. And I don't think it has quite the tooth that the pastel paper has, but
Uh-huh.
it works out quite nicely. Here's another one I did. Both of these are Pinecrest Lake. And this one is in red. So let's see if I can hold it up closer.
So you can still get a lot of detail in there.
Yeah, you can. You just have to be delicate with it because it can lift from underneath. So I always let some of the underpainting dry pretty thoroughly before I go on top, if I have to do any layering on top. But if you mess it up, you can just take it off, start again. I've done it dozens of times with different paintings.
Have you
But
used
it's
Yupo before? Is it like that one? Kind of
like
without
what?
tooth? Yupo is like lifts really easy.
Yeah, but that's just a completely slick plastic
Yeah.
surface, so it's a different material. I've
Gotcha.
seen some really nice things on those, but it's even more of a struggle than aquabord. Aquabord, I really like it. Then I get tired of it, and then I go back to paper. But the advantage is no glass, no mats, and if you get it with this on the side, a cradle, just put a wire on it and go hang it wherever you want to hang it or sell it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are
So-
people responding pretty well to it?
Oh, yeah, I've sold several. I just sold one this last weekend. And they sell them in my gallery all the time here at Petroglyph Gallery. They sell them. And I've sold them up at Mendocino Arts Center, all over the place. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, the thing is, people don't like the glass so much anymore because of big windows and you get
Right.
reflections. And you'd have to buy that really expensive museum glass to get away with it. But this
Right.
solves a lot of problems with galleries. You know, they don't really care to handle
Yeah,
glass.
watercolor has always been kind of a sub painting.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
So this helps go a long way to solve that problem. So, any
We had a-
questions about the painting or anything?
There was what, somebody asked if there was two different light sources. I wasn't sure if they were talking about the painting or having.
Oh, the painting. Well, it's a misty, foggy day, so you're gonna have a lot of different light sources. But basically, the light was supposed to be coming in from out at sea. But in a diffuse situation with clouds, you don't really have a total concentrated light source.
Right,
But
right.
I did put the shadows on the main focal point to give you an idea. And the big cliffs, they're not so much yet. I still have some glazes to put on that to shadow them a little bit more.
Right.
But in a misty situation, you're not going to have a direct light source.
Because of the bounce light from everything.
Yeah, but it's grayed out, and it's like these big lights I have, these diffuser lights. It diffuses your source.
Right.
You no longer have a pinpoint source for your light.
One of our viewers says, "This is a wonderful and very helpful demo. I have struggled with rocks and I feel enriched and inspired by the wonderful
Wow.
examples of Dale's work. Thank you so much."
Well, you're welcome for that comment. That's really nice. Yeah, so like with this rock, I just chose the shape, which was like part of the cliff at one point. So I rounded it off on one side, fairly straight on the other, flat base on it. And then I just put a light wash and then a dark side to it, and then it's done.
And
You
then
know, it's
how will you adjust some of the values? Will you put some more darks in there?
on this,
Leave it.
no, but
No, I mean in the
on
whole
the
painting.
hillside, yeah, I'll put some darks in here, and then the trees will be, I'll bring more darks in with the trees on the slopes and things like that. So I can send a picture when I'm finished with it.
That'd be lovely.
completely,
Thank
so
you. Thank you. We'd appreciate that.
yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
And somebody asked if you studied with Dan Peterson in your early days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did. Modesto Junior College. And then I went over to San Jose State and studied with Eric Obach over there. So in fact, I had a show with Dan 2 years, was it 2019, just before COVID? And that was his last show. And that was my last show with him because he passed away right after that. So, but yeah, I admired him. He's an excellent teacher, very good technician, very good on composition, extremely well done on composition. So, yeah.
Did you ever get to take any classes with Wayne Thibault?
No, that's a regret of mine. You know, I wish I'd been able to go to the university or whatever where he was,
Yeah.
at Davis. But I just learned on my own. I've got an entire, collection of his images in his books, and then also Diebenkorn. I have the entire collection of everything he ever did, and a couple Condos books. So I just look at them every once in a while, and
I'm,
go from there.
Bob Burridge wrote him a letter and Wayne Thiebaud sent him all of his teaching notes.
Oh, that was wonderful.
I know, he won't share either.
I don't blame him.
A wonderful gift.
Yeah. So notice on the composition how all of this stuff sweeps down, creates a visual arrow, and it goes right to this thing here. This starts in the corner here, which some artists will tell you is a no-no, but I don't agree. And it comes down to the base. This comes down, and everything in this painting is pointing towards this area here. And I kept this background light so that this would stand out, and it would have the same value relationship as this does. So that there's kind of a affinity between these two shapes here.
And a repetition of shape too.
Yeah, repeating. So you want variety, but you also want similarities in your shapes too. But you also want variety. So that's what it's a complex puzzle of all those things.
Well, Dale, I have always loved your demos and your teaching, and I thank you on behalf of the CCAA for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. So,
And I'm glad to see you in person-ish.
yeah, kind of ish.
In person-ish.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. But, the way the new life is.
That's right.
Another person said, Dale, you are always so generous with your talent and useful practical advice.
Well, that's
Thank you
what
very much.
painting is. Yeah, that's what painting is. It's just problem solving or figuring out things. That's all it is.
Well, you've
Great
always been very
photos.
generous sharing your knowledge. So that's, I think, what makes you such a great teacher.
Gregory Kondos one time was asked, what do you do if you make a mistake on a painting? He said, you just don't tell anybody.
Who's gonna know?
Yeah,
You made it
Exactly.
up.
yeah, exactly.
That's what